All right, so here we are, week 2, Georgia against Auburn. College game day will be there tomorrow. Biggest game of the week, 2 top 10 teams. Number 4, UGA against number 7, Auburn in Athens. The crew will be there. Unfortunately, only about 20,000 fans will be there. But game of the week, nonetheless. So I'm going to jump right into it. If you watched last week, I did another breakdown of Georgia against Arkansas. I did a score prediction at the end, and I'm going to do the same thing today. Now, last week, I'm going to give myself a little bit of credit because I think it is worthy. I spoke about Felipe Frank's ability to throw the deep ball. I also spoke about Arkansas's best receiver, Treylon Burks, and what happened. Essentially, Arkansas's only bright shining moment of the game was a 50-yard bomb from Felipe Franks to Burks. I also predicted that the score would be 38-10 UGA, and of course it ended up being 37-10. Now, I didn't expect things to go the way that they did. I made a halftime video. I was very upset with the first half. I was in disbelief, as many of you were. But at the end of the day, I predicted 38-10. It was 37-10. So I'm going to do the same thing this week and see how close I can get. So heading into week 2, obviously I just spoke on it. Georgia played Arkansas in Fayetteville. Terrible first half. I've never seen a Georgia team struggle offensively in a half so bad. Even though they scored points, I have never seen anything like it. Constant 3-and-outs, turnovers, penalties, you name it, it happened. Georgia was awful in the first half. Then the third quarter came around, and all of a sudden, all hell broke loose, and Georgia scored, 25 points in the matter of 8 minutes or something like that. Ended up winning the game 37-10. Didn't run the ball very often. Zeus only had 13 carries. He did have 73 yards. So, right there at about 5 yards per carry, he had a nice touchdown run. Passing game, when Stetson Bennett came in, I thought looked pretty good. I mean, for Stetson Bennett, in less than 2 quarters, he threw for over 200 yards and had a couple scores. So I'm definitely impressed by Stetson Bennett. I don't think he's the answer or the long-term solution, but he provided stability when it was needed. So what do we know about Auburn? Well, Auburn was in a dogfight with Kentucky. That game was, Auburn was actually, I think, up by 2, 15-13, if I remember correctly, into the fourth quarter of that game, and then they scored a couple touchdowns in the fourth quarter to pull away and win 29-13. The game was probably a little bit closer than the score would even indicate. But nonetheless, Auburn did win 29-13. But Auburn did have some struggles. They did not have a running back rush for 30 yards. Their leading rusher was Bo Nix with 34 yards. Their offensive line looked absolutely abysmal and just out of sorts. Georgia has a very disciplined and experienced defensive line that can definitely exploit that weakness if Auburn doesn't get that figured out this week. Auburn also lost a ton of talent on defense, and that was obvious as well. Up front, they are nowhere near what they were last year. Kentucky had some success running the ball. Terry Wilson had success on the day. So we'll see what happens there. That was just my breakdown of what has happened in week 1. So coming into this game, a couple things that I'm looking for is obviously Zamir White to get some more touches. I really want him to carry the ball more than 13 times. Would like him to see, somewhere between that 17 to 20 range as far as carries go, which should put him over 100 yards, which I think is a huge, key to success in this game. Also, who is Georgia going to trot out there at quarterback? Earlier this week, I had a feeling that it was going to be Dwan Mathis again. I thought that the leash would be even shorter, but that Kirby was going to give him another shot. I figured he would start the game and he would have about 3 possessions to show that he's either figured stuff out or that's it. However, from the practice notes that I have heard, that is not the case. It does sound like Stetson Bennett is going to be the guy to start this game. With that said, I also think Stetson Bennett has a pretty short leash in this game. UGA cannot afford to do what they did last week and start as poorly as they did last week. They cannot afford to go down to Auburn by, more than a score. If they do, if Stetson Bennett is struggling and UGA goes down by 10, 14 points, I think that's it. And at that point, it's the JT Daniels show. And we're going to have to go to a air raid, throw the ball 50 times a game to make sure that we do win. I think that's a possibility. I think JT Daniels plays. If Stetson Bennett does struggle, I think JT Daniels plays a lot. And we'll see what happens, with that scenario. I hope Stetson Bennett plays well. I really do. I don't want to see anybody at UGA struggle. I just don't think Stetson Bennett is the answer, especially long-term. If we want to beat Alabama, if we want to beat Florida, we need to get JT Daniels reps in game, and we need to get Dwan Mathis reps in the game. We need to get both of those guys enough playing time so that we are ready for those games. But we can't overlook Auburn while we do that. This game is usually close. It's, last year it was 21-14. Seems like it's always a very low-scoring defensive battle, and I think that that's going to be the same this time. I think UGA's offense does struggle because Auburn does have talented players. Just because they lost some guys on the defensive line and lost some DBs doesn't mean that they aren't talented. They still have a good defense. They held Kentucky to 13 points. Georgia's not going to come out and score 38 points or 37 points like they did on Arkansas. I think this is a 1-touchdown game. I would stay away from the point spread here, which last time I checked was 6.5 in favor of UGA. I don't like that at all. I mean, if you're a betting guy, which I'm not, if you're a betting guy, you may love that if you're taking UGA, but I don't trust that because I think that this game very well could be a 3-point game, a 4-point game, a 6-point game, and then in that case, obviously, you're losing money. But if I had to make some guesses onto what these scores could be, and I'll make a prediction here in a second, this is going to be a low-scoring game in the teens or the 20s, and it's going to likely be decided by the last possession of the game or who has the ball last. I could very well see this being a very low-scoring defensive battle, 17-14 type game. I could also see it being a more balanced game, but still a lower scoring game, somewhere in like the 28-24 range. Now, flip a coin as far as which team you think is going to win. Both of these teams are very, very talented. I'm a Georgia fan. I'm a Georgia homer. Of course, I'm going to pick Georgia to win. But if you're an Auburn fan, you're going to feel this same way. But you're probably going to have Auburn win the game. And I don't blame you because it could happen. This is one of the games that UGA could lose. There are a lot of people that, they saw the game last week against Arkansas. They do not like what they saw out of Georgia's offense, and they are picking Georgia to lose this game. I don't agree with them. I think UGA does not struggle like they did in the first half. I think Stetson Bennett provides that consistency, and he has the confidence, and he knows the playbook, and he provides that steadiness to where we are not going to struggle like we did last week. But we're also not going to score 1 million points against Auburn. So I think Stetson Bennett starts. JT Daniels does play. At the end of the day, UGA wins this game in a very entertaining, low-scoring game. Your final will be UGA 23, Auburn 18. You guys take care. Look forward to speaking to you tomorrow. Go Dogs.